Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We are your hosts, Karan and Kristen. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble.
Today, we are sitting down with Dr. Levi Deike. Levi is a transformation coach who helps his clients gain clarity and get in touch with their highest self. Levi helps his clients overcome their limiting beliefs to create new visions of themselves. In other words, he guides people in starting their own pirate journeys. Levi enjoys going against the status quo and charting his own course through life, and we're excited to be talking with him today. And now that you're on, I realized I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name. Did I guess correctly?
Close. It's my last name is Deike.
Deike. Okay. I've been wondering this whole time. And I was going to ask you. So.
Yeah, all good. You're not the first one that messed it up.
So welcome.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to, talk with some like-minded individuals. We all connected in a lifted coaching. So it's awesome to be able to sit down and have a conversation with you two ladies.
Yeah. And you guide your clients in transformation. And as we like to put it, beginning them on their pirate journey. So we want to know about your tale of what started you on your own pirate journey.
Oh man, my own pirate journey. That's a loaded question. But for me, it feels like ever since I was a kid, I remember thinking differently than people. I remember looking at the world and kind of perceiving reality in a different way than a lot of people did. And I didn't have a good grasp or understanding on why that was or what or how to use that. I just remember being like a young kid and being very in touch with the way other people were feeling and the way other people were thinking and looking at how that impacted their life. And then so, using that knowledge, that intuitive, I guess, wisdom as a young kid, I didn't know how to use it as a tool, something to help me going forward. And throughout my life, I've learned how to use those things as a tool, being a coach, being a mentor for others. And that has helped me get a better understanding on not only myself, but then, the people I am able to help.
So would you say like empathy is your superpower then?
Empathy is, for me, empathy and compassion. I think there's a fine line. When you're with someone, of not allowing yourself to get sucked into their emotions and their reality of things. I think empathy is helpful, but also I think it can be harmful if you don't have strong boundaries for yourself. If you're someone who is emotionally in tune with other people, and you don't have strong boundaries, you can allow yourself to get sucked down into their negative feelings, and that can be harmful for your own energy and the way that you feel things. So that's something I've learned over the years is, when I was working with clients on some deep rooted things, and I had immense amount of empathy, but at the same time that would have an effect on me. I could feel, after a coaching session, my body would feel very heavy, and I learned to understand that I was taking on their energy rather than looking at it from a place of compassion. Like, I'm still going to be in my energy, but I can also, kind of weave in and out of, your experience and understand and, have awareness around what you're feeling and thinking, but also maintaining my own aura.
Yeah, this is literally a text conversation between Kristen and I a couple of weeks ago after doing, a story work session with a client and really diving into like talking about her stories around her trauma, like capital T trauma. And I texted Kristen, I'm like, I feel so heavy right now. And it is something that that really does take practice with, like you said, separating that empathy from compassion, and holding your own energy in your own space. And that really required me to take like time and a break to go for a walk, go out into nature, and to like kind of reclaim my own energy from such a heavy session. So how did you learn how to kind of make that separation or that distinction?
Honestly, the biggest thing for me, I sat in an ayahuasca ceremony 2.5 years ago. I went down to Costa Rica and I did a week-long retreat, and that was one of the huge takeaways for me in ceremony. Basically, I didn't have any negative like purging or anything. So we had 4 ceremonies. The first 3, I didn't throw up. I didn't have any like bodily like negative outcomes at all, and most people do, until the 4th night, I believe. I was in ceremony and I could feel other people's energy. I was just very aware, and I was trying to like block it out, and I was trying to like shield myself with my pillows, and basically what happened was I could feel myself taking on other people's energy. I could literally just visualize it. I could feel it in my body, and I ended up purging that night. And that was a big message for me, was being aware of, one, you have to be aware, right? You have to bring that subconscious to the conscious and build awareness around it. And then building awareness around it, you can do things to change it. So, whenever I'm working with someone, I've learned practices to, ground myself before and after. So going outside, it could be something as simple as going outside and sitting in the sunshine and just, taking some breaths and, really just grounding myself to my own body. But also like something I learned was an energetic cord cutting technique. So like focusing on like your aura, and like literally taking scissors with your fingers and like cutting down through like any kind of attachments from other people, any kind of any kind of negativity that's not yours, right? And just like putting that intention out there, because our minds are so powerful, our bodies are so powerful, and if we put the intention out there of, we make it happen, essentially. So just being very intentional about it is the biggest thing that I've learned. And I think I know other people do things differently. A lot of people use stones and crystals and things like that, but it's just really about the intention. In my mind, it's really about what intention you're putting out there, what focus you're putting out there. And if you're putting the focus into not allowing that to happen, then you can make it happen.
With and lifted, well, going back there, we learned how powerful our words are. And speaking of what we're saying, I have a personal story of like a recent event where I had a situation that every single fear I spoke out loud within this situation, I spoke out loud to my husband, Lance. They were coming into action in this relationship that I had, that I was working on, like moving away from and choosing a new direction to go with a project. Everything I spoke out loud that was a fear was coming into reality. Like I got hit so hard with like, am I speaking everything that's happening in this situation right here into existence? So yeah, that right there too, with what you're saying, that was reminding me, our words really can be very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that focus is like, a lot of people have this tendency to focus on fear. It's how we were raised. It's how I was raised. Focus on the things that you don't want to happen, rather than focus on, shifting that and focus on what you do want to happen. And, that was like a big thing that I learned in Lifted just alone. It was like, I didn't realize how much I was focusing on the shit that I didn't want to happen. And when I started to, be a conscious of that, I was doing that and changing that, like everything in my life changed.
And so How do you, so what is the work that you do with your clients right now? You say you're a transformation coach. What does that work mean? What is it?
So it starts with health. It really comes down to like looking at health from this holistic perspective, mind, body, spirit. Um, like workouts, nutrition, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of my work and the work that I've done with clients. Um, it's all interrelated to other aspects of our life. So if we take care of our health and we're mentally fit, we're physically fit, we're spiritually fit, all these other aspects of our life tend to just fall in place, right? And so if we're able to take care of ourselves and come to life from this place of centeredness, alignedness, being grounded in who you are, being comfortable with who you are, and then going out into the world and allowing that to, you know, reaping the benefits of that with your career and your relationships. And so we touch on all those, you know, all these different aspects of life. But it all really starts with health and taking care of yourself first. So that's the work that I do. It's basically I call this the ultimate health, right? So if you're able to experience ultimate health, you're able to also experience ultimate wealth and ultimate, you know, relationship success, and it just like all these things get better from there. So I really focus on with my clients just getting them aligned to who they are and what they truly want.
So we like to ask about social rebellion, like what thing is it that you are wanting to enact and change in the world? So what would you say your social rebellion is?
Oh man, right now it's there's a lot of directions I could go with that right now, but I really think socially the balance of masculinity in men is off. From my perspective, there's a lot of men that don't know how to be men and what that means to be leaders, open-hearted leaders, not tyrants, but leaders that listen, leaders that are able to discern, leaders that are able to take direction, you know, in doing that in their families and in their career and you know, in society as a whole. And the fact that that is lacking in our society is leading to a lot of imbalances in the feminine and masculine energy in general. And you know, there's a lot of negative consequences that come from that. There's a lot of social consequences that come from that. And you know, without strong men, strong, grounded, heart-centered men in our society, without that, then the feminine doesn't feel safe to be feminine. And you know that there's so many negative consequences within, you know, family structures, within corporate structures, within just everything in terms of our society and the way it's structured. And I think if more men wake up in terms of stepping into their power from a heart-centered, grounded place, then I think everything in our society would improve. You know, the way we make decisions, the way our government is structured, the way everyone looks at the world, because that balance just needs to come up. You know, there's a lot of little boys out there that are trying to be men and they don't know how. And so healing that aspect of society, healing masculine energy in our society, I think would really benefit things for us going forward.
And is that something that you're doing in your work with your clients?
For sure. I work with a lot of men. I work with a lot of men on healing who they are, things that they've been through, and then allowing them to step into a role as leaders and in creating the change they want to create. And again, from a heart-centered place. You know, there's a lot of talk about toxic masculinity. There's a lot of talk about, you know, I mean, it's in the news every day. You know, these little boys that walk around as men that are, you know, going out and making shootings happen, or sexual assault and things like that. And it's coming from a wounded place. So I work with a lot of men on healing those wounds and stepping into who they want to be.
What are your thoughts on like where that's even coming from?
I think it's coming from, honestly, my thoughts on where it's coming from is from the top. I think it's coming from the government. I think the government has allowed a lot of men to be lax, allowed a lot of men to be lazy. This COVID pandemic has been part of that in my mind, in terms of having people stay home, giving people money, giving people extended unemployment, and I I really feel like that's creating this idea for men that it's like, it's okay, kind of shrug your shoulders, stay home, sit on the couch, play video games, and not align to their purpose and their passion in the world. Um, and it creates confusion. Men need to be aligned to who they are and what they want to do in the world, in order to have this healthy, life force, energy. And if you take that away, then that creates a lot of confusion and kind of disorientation for men. And then whenever that confusion and disorientation sets in, then these negative behaviors, actions, and consequences happen.
So what steps would you recommend for like the men who are listening that want to make those changes? What steps would you recommend for them to take to start making those changes?
Honestly, I think the biggest change that men can make is being vulnerable about what they feel, being vulnerable about what they think, and expressing themselves and communicating. I think that that's one of the biggest things I know for myself, and one of the biggest things I see in my clients is men have a tendency to, one, not acknowledge their emotions, but also not communicate them. And right, whenever we have something inside of us, such as anger or frustration or sadness or guilt, or whatever the emotion is, if we have that inside of us and we just let it build up rather than expressing it and letting it out, or consciously letting it out, I think a lot of negative behaviors can come from that. Even little things, just like taking it out on in a relationship with a partner, maybe not in an extreme way, but just in your tonality and in the way that you come across, right? If you're not communicating, there's some things that are underlying there that are going to come out one way or another. So with a lot of men, I focus on emotional awareness, and if you are feeling angry about something, then let's consciously express that anger. Let's be aware of it. And I really feel that all men have this savage inside them, this animal inside them that needs to be let out at times, but in a conscious awareness, right? So if I'm working with someone that has anger, we consciously explore that. We consciously let that out. It could be something as simple as yelling during your workouts, unleashing the beast, unleashing the savage, and that energy inside, letting it out, and doing so in a healthy way. And then coming to the rest, then you do that and you come to the rest of life in this grounded, centered, aligned place. It's like, oh, your meeting at 4:30 today is going to be simple because you just did that. You're gonna show up in just a much better way in your relationship whenever you get home, or with your kids whenever you get home. You're just going to feel like more like yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anger is one of those emotions that, like, I work mostly with women, and we're kind of taught not to express that anger, to hold it in. And it's one of those things that I work a lot with my female clients as well, of, like you said, finding ways to actually express that anger in a healthy, like you said, productive way, so that we don't suppress that. And I think in men, that suppressed anger tends to turn into aggression, and that's when it becomes like a toxic trait. I'm not sure what I would say it becomes in women when we suppress that, but I love what you're saying. But like, you know, screaming through your workout, because one of the like exercises I get my female clients to do when they're angry is to go to their car and just scream. Just let it out. And the first time I did that, I screamed so much I couldn't talk for like 2 days. Like, wow, I had a lot in there that I was not, that I was taught that I wasn't allowed to let out. And it wasn't until, you know, I gave myself that permission and helped my clients, you know, give themselves permission to express their anger, because it's a healthy, normal emotion. Yet we do, both men and women, we do our best to suppress it and not actually express it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes back to that being vulnerable too. Like, that's being able to express that you're angry about something. That's vulnerability at its finest, right there. You know, because anger is portrayed as like this negative thing in our society, when it really, it's all it is an emotion. It's the same as joy. It's just an emotion. That's all it is. It's just an energy, and you being able to share that and express that in a way that's healthy, and like, you know, in a way that works for you, is it's a powerful place to come to it with.
And I've heard of emotion is emotion, energy in motion. And when like I realized that, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, emotions are that energy expressing themselves. And I recently saw something too on the topic of anger that said women repress their anger because they're that's what they're taught. Like, they're don't be angry. So all the other emotions come out. It's easier to express, where it's likely to be tears or something like that. Men they express anger, not healthily most of the time. They're able to express their anger because they're told every other emotion is wrong. So you can be angry, but you cannot cry. You cannot like be upset about this thing. And so that was saying like, yeah, women repress anger for that reason, and men are explosive in anger because they're taught all their other emotions are bad. So my question is for you is what are your thoughts and opinions around that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's true. I think our society portrays anger in men as being more common, but leaking out in these negative ways. Like, you know, you watch you go through Netflix, and you know, you can see angry men all over the place, you know, in the movies and the TV shows, you know, and seeing that energy expressed in not so healthy ways. You know, it's kind of like it creates this story, this narrative, you know, coming back to our stories and our words of, oh yeah, you know, it's kind of like the subconscious programming whenever you're seeing it all the time. Maybe it's not like explicitly said that, you know, it's okay for men to be angry, it's okay for men to be violent, but we're shown it. We're, you know, it's in our music, it's in rap songs, you know, and all these different things that we're being programmed to, oh yeah, you know, it's kind of creates this pattern of belief. And yeah, I agree. And I have a 3.5-year-old son, and you know, one of the things that I'm always like talking to him about is, you know, if he's experiencing an emotion, like asking him, what emotion are you experiencing? Just creating some awareness around it. Are you angry right now? Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you, you know, like whatever the thing is, like, you know, we could be playing baseball. Are you having fun? Or, you know, maybe he's upset about something, you know, what's making you upset? You know, just creating awareness around what we're feeling can really, you know, just be beneficial in terms of our own mental and emotional well-being in the long run.
That's so cool that you're doing that with him too.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of my, you know, development like trying to numb out what I was feeling, you know, trying to um you know, like just ignore it. And I think a lot of people do that, ignoring what we're feeling, because you know, it's not cool it's not cool to feel, it's not cool to be emotional, you know. That's kind of the story that we operate on as a society. And one thing I've learned that for men, like, men are just as emotional as women, and that's okay. But it's important for men to not be dictated by their emotions, not allow those emotions to control you and control your behaviors. And so, like, the first thing with that is just creating awareness around them. And it's like, okay, I'm feeling angry. And then you have a choice, right? Once you acknowledge it, you have a choice to express it however you need to. So I just think that that's a really helpful tool for a lot of people.
Mhm. Yeah, feeling the feelings, making it normal.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the more uncomfortable questions that you kind of started to ask yourself to get to where you are?
Oh man, one of the most uncomfortable moments was I was an athlete in high school. And that was what I built my identity around, was being that athlete. And then I got diagnosed with cancer at age 17, and I had to get surgery in my neck. And I was essentially told that I would probably never be able to throw a baseball the same way. Um, and that really that hit me hard, and that created a huge question in terms of who I was, what was my value in the world. Um, all those questions come up whenever something like that hits, especially being 17, when you haven't really had a chance to, like, develop. I hadn't had a chance to really develop these other areas of myself, and really had a chance to, like, decide who I wanted to be. Um, I kind of, like, look back and see I was kind of funneled into just being an athlete because I excelled at it naturally. I enjoyed it. And so I didn't really take the time to develop any other aspects of myself. Sorry, I got a call there. Um, so I didn't really take the chance to develop any other aspects of myself. So I had this one thing that I was basically holding on to, and then all of a sudden it was taken away. And it's like, you feel like you're kind of lit on a, like, deserted island. You're like, oh, this is weird, right? So all those questions come up of, like, who you are, who you want to be, what's your value in the world. And so it all started with there. And then I figured out, from that experience, that I wanted to help people. I wanted to, help people. I had a lot of therapy in terms of, like, rehabbing my body, my shoulder specifically, my neck. So I had a lot of therapy, like physical therapy, occupational therapy, and that's what led me into, okay, I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to make a difference in someone's life, because I know the impact that this experience has had on me. And so I want to be able to take that, and I want to be able to be that person for other people. I want to be that person for other people in the world. I want to help people that are in those dark places in their life, or in those places where they're not really sure which direction to go. I want to help them, guide them. So that was really a pivotal experience for me, and it honestly led me to where I am today.
So when you were told you'd never be able to throw a baseball the same way again, I'm curious, what was your internal dialogue when you were told that?
Oh man, it was a range of different things. At first, it was like I took it and I let it hit me. I let it sink me. Um, so I kind of get down into this dark place internally, and then, from there, I spent a lot of time with myself. That was the first time I really spent a lot of time just by myself. I was recovering from surgery. I was recovering from surgery, so I was basically, like, laid up in my bed. Um, And of course, my parents were there and everything, but, I was just like, I wasn't going to school. I didn't have friends that were hanging out, just kind of by myself. And so from there, I just started like, I started journaling, I remember, and I started reading a lot more. And then I just made up my mind that like I wasn't gonna let it stop me. I eventually got to this place where I was strong-willed enough to say, oh fuck no, like this isn't happening. But it took some time to get there. And I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about who I wanted to be. Not to say that things were perfect from there in terms of like who I was and who I wanted to be, but I had some more insight than I think most 17-year-olds had, because of that experience. So I just got to a point where I made up my mind, and I was like, no, this isn't going to stop me. So I actually was able to play my senior year of baseball. I worked my ass off to get there, and I actually ended up having the best season that I ever had, from that experience.
So, what are some of the small, bold actions then that you've taken, either to get where you are today?
So the first thing that kind of comes to mind is I think back to going into coaching, going into my coaching career. I went to college for 6 years. I got my bachelor's of health sciences. I got my doctorate in occupational therapy. And the track from there, like once you graduate, 99% of graduates in that type of program, they go to work in a hospital or go to work in a clinic, or somewhere along that line to fit into the medical model, right? And I basically said that I wasn't going to do that. I had this vision for myself in terms of being a coach and working for myself and helping people with things that I felt went missing in our healthcare society, and Western medicine in general. Things that such as reducing stress or stress management, thinking about the way we use our words to communicate, thinking about the way we think, right? Thinking about the way we feel, thinking about the way we move our body, and the way we're aligned to our body and in touch with our body. And I had this greater vision of being able to work with people and impact them in a way that was meaningful for them, but also before anything bad happened. On my rotations, I spent a lot of time in the ICU, with working with people that have had strokes and heart attacks and things of that nature. And I felt like that was very impactful, and I felt like it was very meaningful work. But at the same time, I felt like I had this thing in the back of my mind. It's like, what if I got to these people before they got to this place? So that's what led me into, working for myself and doing my coaching business. And everyone around me was like surprised. Everyone was like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure that you want to work for yourself right out of school? Are you sure? Like, because I could go get a job making good money, and all the benefits and all that of doing that, but this was perceived as this was a lot more of a risk, working for myself. And that was a bold action for me, in terms of my life. It was going against the grain there.
Yeah, I love that, because we do focus so much on what I would say sick care, right? Rather than that preventative actual health care, in our society. So I love that you took that stance and went and kind of carved your own path.
So you mentioned to us that you are now, you were working in person, and now you're able to take what you're doing online. So could you tell us more about what you're working on?
Yeah, so I was working more in person, whenever I was living in Phoenix, and I started to realize that work was I couldn't work with as many people as I could online, just because of the time and that was involved, and also I, looked at my life and what I wanted to be able to create for myself. I wanted to be able to travel more. Whereas, working in person, I had, if I wanted to travel, I had to be very, very specific in terms of my scheduling. And, some clients would miss out on sessions, and I would honestly, and that made me miss out on revenue. So I really took a hard stance and looked at, what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted my business to look like, kind of taking a step back and reevaluating some things. Because when you're doing something for 2 years and you're comfortable, you kind of just, keep doing things the same way. But I took that step back and looked at what I wanted to do, and now I'm able to work with more people at a given time. I'm able to travel, have a lot more flexibility with my schedule, and I feel like working online, I'm able to utilize systems, and so it's more efficient. But also, I'm able to impact people in a deeper way. You guys know how impactful story work is, and a lot of times working with clients, we had to prioritize these different things, and some clients were in pain, like physical pain, right? So I'd be working with them on I'd be working with them on like rehabbing, physically, and not even get to touch on story work stuff because we need to spend, this hour, this day on rehabbing the body, rather than now because I can utilize systems, I can give them things like that to do. And then I can spend my time with them working on story work and more like coaching, mentoring, and teaching, rather than that, more like showing them how to move their body and align to how they, maybe if their shoulder hurts, maybe like teaching them, shoulder range of motion stuff, external rotation stuff, rotator cuff stuff. So I can give them that, and then also be able to teach them and coach them and mentor them from there.
Yeah, I was thinking about while you're saying that, like my husband Lance works in chiropractic, and he wishes he had more time with his patients because of the story work. Like I know that most of these people, if we could get into the story, we'd move past the pain that they're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but at the same time with that, it's like you're playing devil's advocate because that there's physical things that they need to do too, right? So it's like, oh man, like I felt like swamped almost because I had maybe 2 hours a week with these people, and it's like, how do I prioritize this? Where now I just feel like so much freer in terms of the work that I do. So I'm very happy with the transition.
That's great.
So where can our listeners go to find out more about you?
The biggest thing for me, I don't even have a real functioning website. I do pretty much everything on social media, in terms of sharing my message and, connecting with people, social media. So Instagram primarily is Dr. Levi Deike.
And what would you recommend our listeners do to get their own pirate life started?
Honestly, that's a very loaded question.
Very.
Be curious. Be curious. That is the biggest thing. Not taking what the narrative is and running with it. Be curious. Question the narrative that people are telling you. Look around. Like typically, from what I found, if the majority of people are thinking it or doing it, that's when there should be red flags. So just be curious, ask questions, and find out the answers for yourself. Find out the answers in terms of what you want to do, not doing things based on what other people want you to do, not doing things based on what you think you should do. Like get rid of the should. Like what do you really want, and asking yourself those questions, asking asking questions to the world, the universe, just being curious and always asking. I think that that's the biggest thing that has led me to where I am. Is I've had this tendency to not always listen very well. Not listen. I think listen's not the word I wanted then, but not go with what I'm told, but always asking for more, asking for more perspectives, more ideas, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And feel all the feelings.
Feel the feelings. Be aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have one last very important question.
Okay.
Do you know any pirate jokes?
You are a dad, so you need to prepare.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this right. What's a pirate's favorite exercise while coaching them?
I don't know.
What?
The plank.
You know what? That is literally the joke for our next podcast. So thank you. I'll have to come up with another one. I'm like, damn it.
You found it.
It's a very dad joke.
It's a good dad joke.
You need all the dad jokes. You said he's 3 right now, so you have time. But
I have time. I'm stockpiling right now.
Because I worked with 5-year-olds. I found around 5, they are starting to understand sarcasm and jokes a little bit. Like it's still not there, but they're starting to. So you've got a couple years yet to prepare.
It is so funny because he's just so straightforward about everything. Like there's no understanding of like joking around or I was just kidding. Like there's none of that. Everything. He takes it face value for what it is. And it's so cute. So funny.
I accidentally got myself in trouble joking around with a 5-year-old. I was like, oh no, she didn't see that as a joke. She thought that was real.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's funny.
Well, it's been great having you on with us today, Levi. Thank you for joining us. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Karan and Kristen. Awesome to talk to you guys and reconnect over the past, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time.
It's lifetimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's rock and roll, guys. There are no rules. This one goes to 11.